SchutzOn, protection always on. SchutzOn, protection always on.
How can the defense industry defend its SAP and ERP systems from cyber attacks? Why cyber resilience must extend beyond infrastructure and into the business process core. The defense industry is entering an unprecedented period of technological acceleration. Governments are increasing defense expenditure. Established contractors are expanding production capacity. A new generation of defense and dual-use companies is developing autonomous systems, advanced communications, AI-enabled intelligence, space technologies, and next-generation manufacturing capabilities. Investment figures illustrate the speed of this transformation. According to research published by the NATO Innovation Fund and Deal Room, European defense, security, and resilience startups raised a record $8.7 billion in 2025, representing a 55% year-on-year increase. AI-related companies accounted for 44% of this funding. NATO's Diana Accelerator selected more than 70 companies from over 2,600 applications for its 2025 program and expanded the following cohort to 150 innovators. Yet every new defense capability also creates a larger digital dependency. Behind aircraft, unmanned systems, radar technologies, secure communications, and precision manufacturing sits another class of mission-critical system: enterprise resource planning. SAP and other ERP platforms manage much more than accounting. In a defense organization, they may control classified or export-controlled supplier relationships, bills of materials and engineering changes, production planning and manufacturing capacity, maintenance, repair and overhaul processes, inventory and controlled components, quality records and product traceability, project costs and government contracts, employee, contractor, and security clearance information, procurement approvals and supplier payments, logistics, readiness, and delivery schedules. This leads to a conclusion that defense executives should treat as a strategic principle. If an attacker can manipulate the ERP system, the attacker may not need to compromise the weapon system directly. A changed supplier record, an altered material specification, a fraudulent payment, an unauthorized engineering change, or a manipulated production order could create financial, operational, and potentially mission-level consequences. ERP security is becoming a national security issue. Traditional security architecture has concentrated heavily on endpoints, networks, firewalls, email security, and cloud infrastructure. These layers remain essential, but they do not provide complete visibility into what happens inside an ERP application. A conventional SOC may detect that a user connected to an SAP server. It may not understand that the same user assigned themselves a sensitive role, changed a strategic supplier's bank account, disabled an audit log, modified a production parameter, exported a high volume of controlled records, executed an unusual transaction outside the approved workflow, created a user and subsequently removed the evidence, bypassed segregation of duties controls, changed security-relevant configuration or audit settings. These are not merely infrastructure events. They are combinations of identity, application, database, and business process activity. CISA has previously warned that unpatched or misconfigured SAP environments can be exposed to malicious activity. The importance of application-aware monitoring is also consistent with the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0, which organizes cybersecurity around 6 continuous functions: govern, identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. For defense organizations, those functions must reach into the ERP layer, not stop at its perimeter. Which ERP platforms does the defense industry use? Large defense organizations and their supply chains do not operate on a single global ERP standard. SAP, Oracle, IFS, Microsoft Dynamics, Infor, Deltec, and specialized manufacturing or project accounting platforms all have a presence across aerospace, defense, space, maintenance, and advanced manufacturing environments. Broadly, SAP has a significant presence in large multinational and complex manufacturing organizations requiring integrated finance, procurement, production, asset management, supply chain, and project capabilities. Oracle is used across government, defense, finance, human capital, and supply chain environments, including deployments requiring sovereign or isolated cloud architectures. IFS has a strong industry focus in aerospace and defense, particularly in asset-intensive operations, maintenance, repair, field service, and complex project delivery. Microsoft Dynamics 365 is frequently relevant to mid-sized manufacturers, subsidiaries, and fast-growing suppliers requiring a flexible ERP and CRM ecosystem. Infor, Deltec, and specialized platforms are common in particular manufacturing, government contracting, project costing, and aerospace contexts. However, no authoritative and transparent public study currently provides a reliable worldwide percentage breakdown of ERP installations specifically within the defense industry. Vendor claims and generic ERP market share figures should not be presented as defense sector evidence. This data limitation does not reduce the security problem. It reinforces an important architectural requirement. Defense industry cybersecurity must be multi-ERP by design. A prime contractor may run SAP while strategic suppliers use Oracle, IFS, Microsoft Dynamics, or smaller industry platforms. Attackers will naturally look for the least mature point in that connected ecosystem. Why defense organizations are unusually attractive targets. The defense industrial base combines several characteristics that make it exceptionally valuable to adversaries. 1. High-value intellectual property. Defense organizations hold designs, specifications, research results, manufacturing methods, software, sourcing information, and performance data that may have taken years and substantial capital to develop. Cyber espionage can therefore shorten an adversary's development cycle without requiring equivalent investment. 2. Geopolitical motivation. Unlike ordinary commercial organizations, defense companies face not only cyber criminals but also state-aligned actors, strategic intelligence operations, hacktivists, and actors seeking long-term access. The objective may be espionage, disruption, strategic signaling, or degradation of industrial capacity, not immediate financial gain. 3. Deep and fragmented supply chains. The U.S. Department of Defense's CMMC documentation notes that attacks do not focus exclusively on major prime contractors. They also target smaller subcontractors that provide critical support and innovation. This asymmetry is fundamental. A small engineering or technology company may possess strategically important information while operating with a much smaller cybersecurity team than a global prime contractor. 4. Long system life cycles. Defense programs may remain operational for decades. ERP landscapes supporting these programs often contain legacy applications, custom developments, specialist integrations, and historical user roles that cannot be replaced quickly. This produces a difficult security equation. The organization must modernize without interrupting production, maintenance, or program delivery. 5. Complex authorization structures. Joint ventures, multinational programs, temporary project teams, external engineers, government representatives, and thousands of suppliers can create highly complex access control structures. Excessive privileges, dormant accounts, conflicting roles, and poorly governed emergency access can remain invisible unless continuously monitored. 6. IT, OT, and business process convergence. ERP systems increasingly connect corporate IT with manufacturing execution, warehouses, maintenance operations, connected assets, and supply chain platforms. A compromised ERP process can therefore influence physical operations even when the initial incident begins in a conventional IT environment. What the available attack data tells us, and what it does not. There is no single, complete global database of cyber attacks against defense companies. Many incidents are classified, undisclosed, or reported under broader categories such as manufacturing, public administration, transport, or technology. Consequently, any claim that a precise percentage of all cyber attacks targets defense should be treated cautiously. The available evidence nevertheless points to a sustained and material threat. The U.S. Department of Defense states that malicious cyber actors continue to target both the defense industrial base and the broader defense supply chain. ENISA's 2025 threat landscape analyzed 4,875 events. Among sector-attributed incidents, public administration represented 38.2%, transport 7.5%, and manufacturing 2.9%, categories that overlap with parts of the defense ecosystem. ENISA continues to identify availability attacks, ransomware, data threats, social engineering, malware, and supply chain compromise as major threat classes. The rapid expansion of defense technology increases the number of startups and specialized suppliers holding sensitive data, often before their governance and security operations have reached enterprise maturity. The correct conclusion is not that every defense company is attacked at the same rate. It is that defense organizations face a combination of high attacker motivation, high-value information, supply chain exposure, and potentially severe consequences. Risk should therefore be evaluated as risk equals threat likelihood times exploitable exposure times mission impact. In defense, mission impact can be disproportionately high even when the probability of a particular attack appears moderate. Compliance is essential, but certification is not continuous defense. Defense companies operate across overlapping regulatory, contractual, and assurance regimes. Depending on geography, customer base, and program type, these may include ISO/IEC 27001 for information security management, ISO 22301 for business continuity, NIS, 2 requirements for applicable EU entities and supply chains, GDPR for personal data protection, NIS TSP 800-171 for protecting controlled unclassified information, CMMC for relevant U.S. defense contracting requirements, DFARS, cybersecurity clauses ITAR and EAR, export control obligations SOC 2, assurance for service organizations, AS 9100, aerospace quality management requirements, IEC 62443 principles for industrial automation and control system security, national defense security, facility security, and classified information requirements, customer-specific security controls imposed by ministries, armed forces, and prime contractors. These requirements are not interchangeable. ISO 27001 is a certifiable management system standard. SOC2 is an attestation report rather than a conventional certification. NIS2 is a legal and regulatory regime, not a certificate. CMMC applies in a particular U.S. defense contracting context. AS 9100 is primarily a quality standard and does not replace a cybersecurity program. Passing an audit confirms that defined controls existed and were assessed within a particular scope and period. It does not prove that. A privileged user is not abusing access today. A newly created account is legitimate. An SAP security parameter has not been changed. A business-critical table has not been manipulated. A supplier bank account change is genuine. Logging remains active across every relevant system. A segregation of duties conflict has not appeared since the audit. Critical transaction is not being executed abnormally. The strategic shift must therefore be from point-in-time compliance to continuous control assurance. A certificate answers, did we establish an acceptable control environment? Continuous monitoring answers, are those controls still operating, and is the organization under attack right now? Defense organizations need both. The S.H.I.E.L.D. for ERP methodology. To translate cybersecurity principles into an ERP-specific operating model, I propose a 6-layer approach. S.H.I.E.L.D for ERP. S. Scope mission critical processes. Begin with mission impact, not a generic vulnerability list. Identify which ERP processes support controlled technology, production readiness, engineering, strategic sourcing, maintenance, finance, logistics, and government delivery commitments. Map the relevant systems, interfaces, data owners, suppliers, and responsible executives. H. Harden identities, configurations, and change paths. Reduce unnecessary privilege. Review technical, functional, and emergency accounts. Enforce segregation of duties, secure authentication, and controlled transport or change management processes. Continuously assess configurations rather than assuming that the original secure baseline remains unchanged. For instrument every relevant ERP layer. Collect and correlate security telemetry across. Database activity, application logs, authentication and identity events, privileged transactions, configuration, changes, business process activity, integration and interface behavior, security and audit log status. Infrastructure only visibility leaves a significant detection gap. E. Engineered defense-specific detection scenarios. Generic rules are insufficient. Detection logic should reflect how defense organizations operate. Relevant scenarios may include unauthorized access to controlled program data, abnormal bill of material or engineering record changes, unusual exports of supplier or component information, manipulation of quality or traceability records, changes to restricted vendors or bank details, privilege escalation around sensitive programs, dormant or external accounts becoming active unexpectedly, high-risk actions outside approved maintenance windows, attempts to disable logs or weaken security configurations, conflicting procurement, approval, and payment permissions, anomalous activity across subsidiaries or program environments. This is where sector knowledge becomes as important as technical detection. L. Link detection, response, and evidence. ERP alerts should not remain isolated from the security operation. High-confidence events must be enriched with business context and routed into SIEM, SOC, and incident management systems. The organization should know which program, supplier, transaction, asset, or process may be affected. The same evidence should support investigations, regulatory reporting, and compliance validation. D. Drill, measure, and continuously improve defense organizations routinely test physical and operational readiness. ERP cyber readiness deserves the same discipline. Run scenarios involving compromised privileged accounts, manipulated suppliers, production changes, data exfiltration, and audit log disruption. Measure detection time, investigation time, containment time, and recovery readiness. Continuous improvement should be based on observed threats, control failures, and changes in business processes, not only on the next audit date. How SchutzOn Logex contributes to this model. SchutzOn Logex is designed to bring application-aware cybersecurity and continuous compliance monitoring to complex ERP environments. Rather than viewing SAP or another ERP system as a conventional server, a Logex analyses activity across the ERP security stack, including database, application, and business process layers. For defense industry environments, its value lies in combining a broad technical detection foundation with industry-specific use case customization. This can enable organizations to monitor ERP security and business process events continuously, detect anomalous users, transactions, and configuration changes, correlate technical indicators with operational meaning, develop defense-specific detection rules around controlled programs, suppliers, manufacturing, and traceability, monitor compliance controls between formal audit cycles, map evidence to relevant regulatory and assurance requirements, Provide executive-level risk and compliance dashboards. Send actionable alerts to platforms such as Microsoft Sentinel, Splunk, IBM QRadar, and Wazoo. Integrate security findings with operational workflows such as ServiceNow and Jira. Extend the security model across SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics, IFS, and other ERP environments as the supply chain evolves. The objective is not to replace the organization's SIEM, SOC identity platform or governance program. It is to close the ERP context gap between them. ASIEM may recognize a sequence of technical events. An ERP-aware security platform must explain whether those events could affect a controlled supplier, production order, engineering record, payment approval, or mission-critical delivery. That context determines whether an event is merely unusual or strategically dangerous. The CEO agenda, from protecting systems to protecting mission outcomes. ERP cybersecurity should no longer be treated as a narrow technical responsibility delegated exclusively to SAP administrators or infrastructure teams. Boards and executive teams should ask, which mission-critical outcomes depend on our ERP systems? Can we detect malicious activity inside the application and business process layers? Do we know when a security control or audit mechanism stops operating? Are our suppliers held to a proportionate and measurable security baseline? Can our SOC interpret an ERP alert in operational terms? Are compliance controls monitored continuously or only before audits? Have we tested an ERP-specific incident involving fraud, sabotage, espionage, or production disruption? Can we produce reliable evidence of what happened, who acted, and what was affected? The defense industry already understands deterrence, readiness, and layered protection. The same principles must now be applied to the digital systems that coordinate its people, suppliers, production capacity, and intellectual property. Because in the emerging threat environment, defending the enterprise perimeter is no longer enough. The defense industry must also defend the processes that make defense possible. Thank you for listening to this episode. We believe that stronger cyber resilience is built through shared experience. We invite you to contribute to the conversation by sharing your own perspective, expertise, and lessons learned. Every insight helps our community develop a deeper and more practical understanding of ERP cybersecurity. To learn more about SchutzOn Logex, our AI-powered multi-ERP cybersecurity and compliance platform, visit www.schutzon.com. If you would like to explore the platform in a demo session, you can reach us at hello@schutzon.com. Until next time, stay secure, stay resilient, and we look forward to continuing the conversation in our next episode.
SchutzOn, protection always on.